Good morning, everybody. Today we will start our new story that is The Three Hermits, which is written by Leo Tolstoy. So let's begin with our introduction. The Russian writer Leo Tolstoy was one of the world's greatest novelists. As we all know, Leo Tolstoy was a Russian writer and he was one of the greatest novelists of the world. Tolstoy was among the most well known exponents of the style of literary realism. And if we have seen the stories, if we have read the stories of Leo Tolstoy, we will come to know the exponents of the style of literary realism in his writings. His most famous novels, War and Peace and Anna Karenina, are often considered to be two of the greatest novels ever written. And he wrote two most famous novels. And if we have gone through it, War and Peace and Anna Karenina, these two novels are most famous. And both of them were considered to be the two of the greatest novels ever written. म्हणजे हे दोन त्यांनी लिहिलेले सर्वात फेमस नॉवेल होते आणि आतापर्यंत लिहिल्या गेलेल्या नॉवेल्स पैकी हे दोन असे नॉवेल्स आहेत ही एकदम फेमस आहेत. He also wrote many short stories that remain popular to this day. And moreover, Leo Tolstoy has written many short stories, and all the stories are remain popular to this day. Tolstoy is equally well known as a social reformer and for his extensive philosophical writing. And he has also known, Leo Tolstoy was also known as a social reformer as well as for his extensive philosophical writings. He believed in the principles of Christian anarchism. Both M.K. Gandhi and Martin Luther King were greatly influenced by Tolstoy's ideas on non-violent resistance. So the great philosopher, or we can say the great personalities, M.K. Gandhi and Martin Luther King, both of them were greatly influenced by the ideology of Tolstoy, especially non-violent resistance. The Three Hermits is about the nature of prayer and piety. And this story, particular story, The Three Hermits, is about the nature of prayer. A bishop meets three simple hermits on an island and tries to teach them how to pray in accordance with custom and church law so that they might save their souls. So, what happened in the story? The bishop who meets three simple hermits on the island and he tries to teach them how to pray in according with customs and church law of that they might save their souls. So he teaches the three hermits that how to pray so that he can save, they can save their souls. However, at the end of the story, the bishop realizes that their humble lives and sincere piety have already made them closer to God than he himself is. But at the end, the bishop realizes that their humble lives and sincere piety have already made them closer to God. Whatever work they done, whatever what we can say worship they done, because of that worship, they are quite closer to God. Means this thing is realized by the bishop in the story. So let's begin our story. A bishop was sailing from Archangel to the Solstic monastery, and on the same vessel means here boat, were a number of pilgrims on their way to visit the shrines at that place. So what happens once a bishop who was sailing from Archangel to Solstic monastery? What happened? One day the bishop was traveling from one town to another on the same vessel where a number of pilgrims were also on their way to visit the shrines at that place. And in the same boat, there were a number of pilgrims who were also sailing in the same boat and they were going to the shrine to visit the shrines. The voyage was a smooth one, and whatever voyage they have done from Archangel to Solstic Monastery, that particular voyage was the smooth one. The wind favorable and the water fair. And on that day, the wind was favorable and the weather was fair. And on that day, the bishop with number of pilgrims, they were sailing in the same boat. The pilgrims lay on deck, eating or sat in groups talking to one another. So there were number of pilgrims, they were lay on deck. They were means they just lay on deck. They were, some of the pilgrims were eating, some of the pilgrims were laying, and some of the pilgrims were sitting in groups, and they were talking to each other. They were talking to one another. The bishop too came on deck, and as he was pacing up and down, he noticed a group of men standing near the prow and listening to a fisherman who was pointing to the sea and telling them something. So most of the pilgrims, some of the pilgrims were laying there, some of the pilgrims were eating, some of the pilgrims were sitting in a group, and they were talking to one another. The bishop too came on deck, and in that pilgrim, the bishop also came on deck. Bishop सुद्धा त्या डेकवर म्हणजे जहाजावर आला होता. And as he was pacing up and down, he noticed a group of men standing near the prow and listening to a fisherman who was pointing to the sea and telling them something. So when the bishop came on the deck, means he was pacing up and down. He was going from one end to the other end. And at the same time, he noticed a group of men. They were standing near the prow and they were listening to a fisherman. And that particular fisherman who was pointing towards the sea, to the sea, and telling them something. जेव्हा तो बिशप तिथे येतो, तो एका टोकाकडून दुसऱ्या टोकाकडे जात असतो, आणि तेव्हाच त्याचं लक्ष, काही माणसं उभे असतात, प्रो मीन्स जहाजाच्या समोरचा भाग असतो तिथं उभे असतात, आणि ते त्या फिशरमॅन त्यांना काहीतरी सांगत असतो, आणि ते त्या फिशरमॅनला ऐकत असतात. तो फिशरमॅन समुद्राकडे काहीतरी बोट करून समोर काहीतरी दाखवत असतो आणि त्यांना काहीतरी सांगत असतो. असं तो बिशप त्यांच्याकडे पाहतो आणि त्याला ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टी दिसतात. The bishop stopped and looked in the direction in which the man was pointing. So the bishop was also looking towards the direction, and he, while stopping there, he was also looking towards the direction, to that direction the fisherman was pointing. म्हणजे ज्या दिशेला फिशरमॅन म्हणजे पॉइंट करून बोलत होता, पॉइंटिंग करून बोलत होता, त्याच दिशेला म्हणजे तो बिशप तिथं थांबतो, तो थांबला आणि त्या दिशेला तो एकटक पाहत होता. नेमकं हे लोक काय दाखवत आहेत किंवा कशाच्या गोष्टी करत आहे याच्यासाठी तो तिथं थांबतो आणि त्या डायरेक्शन कडे पाहतो. He could see nothing, however, but the sea glistening in the sunshine. So when he was trying to see towards the direction of that fisherman, at that time he was unable to see anything. He was unable to see anything, but on that day the sea glistening in the sunshine. परंतु जे समुद्राचं पाणी असते, समुद्र असतो, तो समुद्र सूर्याच्या प्रकाशामुळे चकाकत असतो. He drew nearer to listen, but when the man saw him, he took off his cap and was silent. So he was unable to listen what that fisherman was saying. That's why he decided to come nearer to that fisherman to listen something what they were telling. For that, for the listening their discussion, he came nearer. But when the man saw him near him, at that time he took off his cap. For paying respect, he took off his cap and was silent. परंतु जेव्हा तो इतर माणसांच्या म्हणजे पर्टिक्युलरली त्या फिशरमॅनच्या जवळ जातो, तो काय सांगत आहे, काय बोलत आहे हे ऐकण्यासाठी, तेव्हा तो फिशरमॅन म्हणजे स्वतःची कॅप, डोक्यातून कॅप बाहेर काढतो, त्याला रिस्पेक्ट देतो आणि एकदम शांत थांबतो. The rest of the people also took off their caps and bowed. आणि बाकीचे जेवढे उरलेले लोक असतात, मीन्स द रेस्ट ऑफ द पीपल ऑल्सो टूक ऑफ देअर कॅप्स फ्रॉम देअर हेड्स अँड दे बोड, म्हणजे त्याला नमन करतात. ते सुद्धा त्यांच्या कॅप्स त्यांच्या डोक्याच्या बाहेर काढतात आणि त्या व्यक्तीला नमन करतात, बिशपला नमन करतात. बोट म्हणजे नमस्कार करतात, अभिवादन करतात. डू नॉट लेट मी डिस्टर्ब यू फ्रेंड्स, सेड द बिशप. आय केम टू हिअर व्हॉट धिस गुड मॅन वॉज सेइंग. सो at that time bishop told them that do not let me disturb you friends, do not let me disturb you. Actually I have come here to hear what this good man was saying. आता तो सांगतो की माझ्यामुळे तुम्ही डिस्टर्ब होऊ नका, माझ्या मित्रांनो, माझ्यामुळे तुम्ही डिस्टर्ब होऊ नका. मी येथे याच्यासाठी आलेला आहे की हा जो चांगला मनुष्य आहे तो नेमकं काय सांगत आहे ते ऐकण्यासाठी मी येथे आलेलो आहे. The fisherman was telling us about the hermits, replied one, a tradesman, rather bolder than the rest. So there was one, a tradesman was there, and he was little bit bolder than the other or bolder than the rest. So that tradesman told him that the fisherman was telling us about the hermits. हा जो फिशरमॅन आहे तो आम्हाला हर्मिट्स बद्दल गोष्टी सांगतो आहे असं तो म्हणतो. What hermits? asked the bishop, going to the side of the vessel and sitting himself on a box. Tell me about them. I should like to hear. What were you pointing at? So when that tradesman told him that the fisherman was telling us about the hermits, at that time he asked him that what hermits, कोणत्या hermits बद्दल. बिशप असं विचारतो, आज द बिशप व्हॉट हर्मिट्स, कोणत्या बिशप बद्दल फिशरमॅन तुम्हाला सांगत आहे. अँड while asking that question he was going to the side of the vessel and sitting himself on the box. He asked the question that what hermits, म्हणजे जेव्हा तो हा प्रश्न विचारत होता तेव्हा तो व्हिसलच्या म्हणजे बोटीच्या या बाजूला जातो आणि त्या बाजूला गेल्यानंतर एक तिथं बॉक्स असतो, त्या बॉक्सवर बसतो आणि त्यांना प्रश्न विचारतो की कोणते हर्मिट्स. टेल मी अबाउट देम. You also tell me about the hermits. I should like to hear. कारण की मला सुद्धा ऐकायला आनंद होईल. What were you pointing at? And what were you pointing at? तुम्ही कशाकडे बोट दाखवून बोलत होते, नेमके तुम्ही काय दाखवत होते, तुम्हाला काय दिसलं होतं, असे प्रश्न तो बिशप त्यांना विचारतो. Why? That little island you can just see over there, answered the man, pointing to a spot ahead and a little to the right. That is the island where the hermits live for the salvation of their souls. So now one of the men answered him that, why? That little island you can just see over there. Means that little island you can see just over there, answered the man, pointing to the spot ahead and a little to the right. म्हणजे उजव्या दिशेला जो एक स्पॉट आहे त्या स्पॉटकडे बघून तो मनुष्य त्याला सांगतो की दॅट लिटिल आयलँड यू कॅन जस्ट सी ओव्हर दिअर. म्हणजे या तो छोटासा जो आयलँड दिसतोय आपल्याला त्याच्या एकदम उजव्या बाजूला जेव्हा आपण पाहतो, दॅट इज द आयलँड वेअर द हर्मिट्स लिव्ह फॉर द सॉल्वेशन ऑफ देअर सोल्स. म्हणजे तोच आयलँड आहे जिथं की वेअर द हर्मिट्स लिव्ह अँड दे वेअर लिव्हिंग देअर फॉर द सॉल्वेशन ऑफ देअर सोल्स. म्हणजे मोक्ष प्राप्तीसाठी ते तिथं राहत आहेत असं उत्तर त्याला एका माणसाकडून मिळतं. वेअर इज द आयलँड आज द बिशप. आय सी नथिंग. अँड Bishop was also looking towards that direction, but he was unable to see that little island, and that's why he asked the same question to that man, where is the island? Island नेमका कुठे आहे असं तो बिशप म्हणतो. I see nothing. मला तर काहीच दिसत नाही. Where is the island? I see nothing. There in the distance, if you will please look along my hand, do you see that little cloud? Then another man told him that there in the distance, if you will please look along my hand, जर तुम्ही त्या डायरेक्शनला माझ्या हाताच्या दिशेने पाहिलं तर डू यू सी दॅट लिटिल क्लाउड, तुम्हाला ते छोटसा ढग दिसतो का? बिलो इट अँड अ बिट टू द लेफ्ट देयर इज जस्ट अ फेंट streak. So if you are able to see that little cloud, then below that cloud there is a bit, means bit to the left there is just a faint streak. म्हणजे त्या छोट्याशा क्लाउडच्या खाली अगदी लेफ्ट साइडला, थोडस लेफ्ट साइडला इथं एक फेंट स्ट्रीक आहे. म्हणजे ज्याला म्हणू आपण फेंट म्हणजे काय म्हणतो आपण, म्हणजे अशी अंधुक दिसणारी एक रेषा दिसते आहे. त्या रेषेच्या बाजूला आपल्याला तिथं तो आयलँड दिसतो आहे. दॅट इज द आयलँड. तोच आयलँड आहे जिथं की वेअर द हर्मिट्स वेअर लिव्हिंग, जिथे की हर्मिट्स राहतात किंवा दे आर लिव्हिंग. द बिशप लुक्ड केअरफुली. but his unaccustomed eyes could make out nothing but the water shimmering in the sun. So the bishop also looked carefully towards that direction, but his eyes were unaccustomed to see that particular island, and because of that unaccustomed eyes, he was unable to see that little island, but he was seen at that time the water which was simmering in the sun. म्हणजे तो आयलँड तर बिशपला दिसत नाही, परंतु जे पाणी असते ते सूर्याच्या प्रकाशाने चकाकत असते, ते पाणी मात्र बिशपला दिसते. I cannot see it, he said, but who are the hermits that live there? Then he replied that I cannot see it. मला तर ते दिसतच नाही असं तो सांगतो. I am unable to see that particular island. But who are the hermits that live there? मला तर आयलँड दिसतच नाही, परंतु ते हर्मिट्स कोणते आहेत जे की तिथे राहतात? They are holy men, answered the fisherman. And fisherman answered that they are the holy men. ते पवित्र लोक आहेत, ते एकदम म्हणजे धार्मिक लोक आहेत. फिशरमॅन असं त्याला उत्तर म्हणजे बिशपला उत्तर देतो. आय हॅड लॉंग हर्ड टेल ऑफ देम बट नेव्हर चान्स टू सी देम माय सेल्फ टिल द इयर बिफोर लास्ट. मी खूप वर्षापूर्वी अशी एक गोष्ट ऐकली होती, परंतु आतापर्यंत मी त्यांच्या म्हणजे मला अशी संधीच मिळाली नाही, त्यांना बघण्याची मला संधी मिळाली नाही. हिअर आय वुड लाईक टू स्टॉप. थँक यू व्हेरी मच फॉर लिसनिंग मी पेशंटली. थँक यू.